Because I'm doing the Cert 4 at Swinburne, part of one of my assessments includes I have to have a session recorded. So that's why he is. So your faces won't be shown, so you don't have to sign any consent forms. You won't see your faces up on any posters anywhere.
Don't worry,
Or
we'll
hear
link
your
this
voice
up
on the
on the
news.
internet.
But Dean said, so, okay?
Yeah.
Good. Oh, welcome. Let me know when you're done.
Yeah, thank you.
you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, welcome everybody. So today, does this work? There we go. So we're here to talk about the natural disasters, natural disaster impacted consumers. This was working on here.
Just press the,
That's all right, I'll do this. So, learning objectives. By the end of this session, you will understand our response to natural disaster impacted consumers, understand the natural disaster alert banner and why it was created, and also know how and when to apply the natural disaster banner. So this is a new thing that's going to appear in, or a new option you're going to have in Radar to choose, okay? So in December 2019, we reopened the Natural Disaster Priority Line. We have used this in the past. We've had flooding complaints. It was back in Queensland, I think, and New Zealand. Now, we've been monitoring bushfire-affected complaints and addressed urgency. So I think Dave did a search on keywords, not actual keywords, but specific words, bushfire, within complaints, and found about 300 that came up. So what we did, then we had a couple of the early resolution officers call those consumers. If we found there was anything we felt, well, especially if there was an urgent aspect, which is separate to this actual banner, okay? And so then they could reconfirm that has the urgent aspects of the complaint been addressed, okay? And we've also made announcements in the media of our initiatives regarding the bushfires priority line. And there's been articles in M-News Communications to members. Have any of you seen them or read those? Yeah, you can find them in Confluence, they come up. And work with members closely to assist bushfire affected consumers and ensure member initiatives are upheld. Because there's no point us noting that a consumer is bushfire affected if the provider isn't aware of it or they're not agreeing to do anything with this information. So we've had a lot of communication. Telstra, Vodafone and Optus particularly have a dedicated contact number that consumers can call, okay? Now also with, it was specifically, they've made offers to volunteer firefighters that for the months of February and January they can call Telstra or Optus or Vodafone and have their phone bill waived or get a free prepaid service for that time. Now how they do that is when they ring their provider, they have to be able to identify that they're a volunteer fighter. Now my brother-in-law and sister are both volunteer firefighters, I should say, in New South Wales. So they have a little card that looks like a licence, photo ID, it has their ID number, date issued, date expiry, and also the brigade they're with. So they just have to give some of those details to your representative that they're speaking to. And I know from their experience that was slow to start with, but I believe it's getting easier for people to ring up now. Okay. So we also provided staff on how to deal with natural disaster impacted consumers and vulnerable consumers as a group. So you've all done the vulnerability online training, okay? So those sort of skills or information will help you when you're dealing with a consumer, sort of things to consider, how to handle them. Okay. And we implemented a natural disaster alert banner option in Radar, which is what we'll be looking at today. Talia's just told me that that's going to be active or live as of next week. Okay. So, the alert banner. A new natural disaster option has been created in Radar. When selected, a blue banner will now appear on the consumer matter so that any associated referral letter sent to the provider will also note this. So as they do when they have an urgent complaint, it will say natural disaster and may say bushfire, for example, affected consumer. Okay. Now, how they handle that is up to them. We're just letting them know this is the consumers. We've identified this with the conversation or the email or the written correspondence. It's still up to them whether they handle the complaint differently. Okay. So this, when the provider gets this, will help to identify when a consumer's complaint was caused by a natural disaster or involves issues impacted by a natural disaster. Now, this still may not be urgent, so this is where you need to consider the complaint. Where the consumer requires additional care or support when handling calls or emails, these are things you need to consider. And when to handle complaints using specific processes, which queue to place the unresolved complaint into. Okay. If you're unsure at any stage, ask the team leader or your coach, and we can assist you with further guidance. We really don't think we're going to get a lot of these calls, but that could change in a few weeks, in a month, as people start to kind of get some space, if you like, after the impact that they've had. And they may then have to start dealing with, you know, these types of things. They might start getting in bills. They might not even have a house. So their phone might be disconnected, and all of a sudden they've got no service. They're ringing their provider, and so there's a whole lot of things they have to deal with. And obviously it's not just going to be phone, it will be all their services if they've lost their house or property or business. So it will also identify for us, having this banner, the volume of natural disaster related complaints. So rather than us trying to do searches on, you know, who's written what, so forth, or how they've written it, we can just do a complete search on this particular banner. It will give us an exact number on it. Okay? And we can use that for reporting as well. And also might shape the way we need to resource the contact centre. So how to add the natural disaster alert banner? In the complaint details area on the left-hand side of resolved, I'll just drop it down for you. Just go to the natural disaster and choose from the drop-down menu. So just under urgent, you're going to see it appear just here. Now at the moment, it's only showing bushfire. There will be about 4 different ones. They're still deciding what they're going to put in there. Okay. A guy asked if they'll have climate change in there. We said no. There's always one. But yeah, flooding's an obvious one. Cyclone might be one. You know. So we don't know yet at this stage. Okay. Once the menu item is selected, this will add the banner to the complaint, and the banner will appear at the top of the screen in blue. So you can see you've got the separate matter urgent. So even if it is a natural disaster, it still may not be an urgent complaint. Okay. So you will make that decision as you would with any complaint that you get. You will listen to the issues, and you will determine, well, they've still got their services, you know, so even though they've been affected, they can still call 000, for example, you know, so you would treat it like any other urgent complaint as far as that. So again, they are separate. And what we'll also do is we'll advise consumers that we're going to mark their complaint, we'll put a note on there that they have been impacted, if it's bushfire in this case, okay? And another aspect of it, unlike an urgent complaint where you can take the banner off if it's not urgent, that stays on there for the life of the complaint. So not their profile, but the complaint itself, okay? Now, when the drop-down menu item is selected, this adds a section to the referral or inquiry referral notice to the provider, noting that the type of natural disaster, so we'll actually say bushfire if that's what you've chosen in this case. So again, as I said, they may not treat the complaint any differently. So it's just for us, but they have agreed, I should say, to monitor these complaints and set up a particular phone number that consumers can call in. So they must have a team or at least a few people handling these situations if they need to. So that's really positive. So what to expect? So obviously a consumer may be distressed, experiencing high emotions, and look, it's no different to any time a consumer calls us. They could be angry, upset, depressed. This side of it's no different. It's just being taking your time, being empathetic, and just listening, letting them talk about what the issue is to try and ascertain, is this a bushfire or disaster issue that you need to address or consider. So, you know, they may have lost damage or property. They could be experiencing financial hardship. Look, my feeling is, as probably most of you would agree, that a lot of consumers are going to be impacted by financial hardship because of this. And as I said, maybe bills, that maybe service is going to be determined, debt may be transferred to a debt collector. So we would treat those in the same way we would any other complaint. But obviously, if there's a bushfire related aspect to it, we will note that and tag it. So we just want to be more diligent. So if it's a written complaint, we want to be more diligent reading the case notes just to see if there's something there we're going to pick up on, okay? And also be mindful then if there is a debt, and I know it's something you would do on a daily basis, but if there's a debt there, we need to include it, send a debt suspension request if need be, or if it's a callback is unresolved or a second contact, make sure we send a credit management suspension request to the provider. They may also have limited communication services. So again, you would still treat it as you would an urgent complaint. You know what our criteria is there. One thing that will be a different consideration for you is, let's just say they call back to say the complaint's unresolved and they're a representative or it's a business and they can't access, they have no way of accessing a TPA or a business info form. We're going to consider putting them through the triage and letting them decide whether they will accept the complaint in special circumstances. That may change to what those circumstances are. If you're in doubt, you can always ask a team leader or one of us. You know, I think we should put this through. Here's the reasons why the consumer can't provide a TPA or business information form. So can we put this through? Can we progress the complaint? Okay. So have the discussion. Don't feel like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do here. All right. We'll support you. And also after the call, take a breather. If it's impacted you, take a break. If you want to talk to any of us, you're welcome to do so, or contact EAP if it's been a really distressing call, because some consumers have been through hell. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. Logging advice. All right. Gather all relevant contact details. Look, one thing I would approach I would take with these complaints is, when you get an unresolved complaint back, you have to know the reasons why you're progressing it before it goes into triage queue. Just approach it the same way. Yep. Make clear notes of advice provided and actions taken. Identify any other urgency, medical or safety concerns. Log a referral or inquiry referral as appropriate. and set expectations about timeframes and process. So nothing changes the way our process as far as how we handle it, except for that TPA side of it. Otherwise, we're just choosing it's either a bushfire tag or not. Every other aspect's going to be the same for how we handle complaints. So we'll just go through some scenarios. So a consumer's home is destroyed by fires. The provider has disconnected their services and referred the debt to a recovery agency. How would you approach the complaint? What would be something you might ask the consumer?
Whether there's any unpaid bills?
Sorry? What?
Whether there is any unpaid bills?
Yes, good.
Whether that's the reason?
Because it may have been disconnected, you're right, it may have been disconnected before the fires. So we might still consider the financial hardship side of it, because that still may be a separate issue, okay? May not be, so the fires may have not impacted why it was initially disconnected. So do we add the banner? Yep.
Yeah.
Take Richard's nod as a yes. Questions to ask. So, are you in financial hardship? Which we would always ask. Are you currently on a payment plan? Bearing in mind, consumers may be so frazzled that they may not be able to answer these questions. We're just going to we take in good faith the information they give us as much as they can, okay? Just leave clear notes, that's all you need to do. Are you able to use another service in case of emergency? What services are affected? So standard questions you would normally ask. And has the provider offered suitable options or advice? Did you set up a payment plan or extension? Okay, so the consumer's car was damaged by hailstorm. Consumer can't afford the cost of insurance and is now in financial hardship. Do we add the banner? Not bushfire, obviously, natural disaster.
It's not a communications complaint.
But what aspect, so if they have a television, the thing is they would be calling us, we're asking, what's the first question we ask them?
Which provider are you calling about?
So they're calling us, we can assume this, about a telecommunications bill or service, okay? And what's the part of it that we would look at? Budget. So we would need to ask further questions, okay? So it's not about the car, it's not about the hail damage, it's about they're now impacted financially and they can't pay their telephone or internet bill. Does that make sense?
They can't afford to pay their insurance, they can't afford
Yeah.
to pay for the
Yeah.
car.
I mean, obviously, yeah.
You can call it just bill shock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
pretty
right,
much,
yeah,
That's why we've used the example, it's an unusual one, but
it is.
it could be something that just makes you think a bit more.
So that's the main thing, we've got to look at what's within our criteria that we can consider. So, yes, we would add the banner. What services do you have with the provider? Is the provider aware of the issue? And has the provider offered suitable options or advice? Payment plan, again, the same questions you would normally ask. So there's no change here, okay? Obviously the scenario is strange, but more than likely a consumer is going to talk about their telephone bill or service. So you're not going to go, this is car insurance. It's got nothing to do with us, yeah? Because as I said, the first question is, which service provider are you with? If they're only calling about their insurance company, we're not the right company. We're not the right ombudsman.
Just a quick question.
Yeah, of course.
So, the natural disaster banner
Yeah,
currently has bushfire as a sort of subcategory.
yes.
Is there any other?
That's what I'm saying. They will be added.
Oh,
So
right.
there'll be flooding, it could
So
be
what would that
cyclone.
fall under? Like,
What they would
do we
fall
know
under.
what the
They would
category
probably
No.
fall under, if there was flooding or if there was hailstorms or storms, maybe it would fall
Yeah.
under that
Yeah.
category.
Yeah, so we will know next week, before it goes live,
Yeah.
what those choices are. So you will know as
Okay.
well, okay?
Yeah.
So we'll update you on anything that changes or gets added. But good question. Consumer's landline is disconnected. Consumer is located in a bushfire prone area. Do we add the banner? questions to ask. What questions
Can I
might we
ask-
ask the consumer? Yeah?
The Banners customers have been impacted, because I've been getting a lot of complaints where they say they're in a bushfire prone area because it burnt in previous disasters,
Yeah.
but there's no current fires there. Would you put the banner then, or?
Look, I think we would put the banner,
Okay.
yeah, but it may not be an urgent complaint.
Yeah.
Because if they've still got their services. However, if they're looking over the hill and the fire's coming that way,
Oh, these
You
are
would-
ones that have
yeah.
had no fires, like it's,
yeah,
Yeah, old.
yeah.
To give you an example of why you might want to put the banner on there, it might be a good idea, is if they've got this landline disconnected and they're in a prone area, the provider may decide, and outside of our sphere of influence, to go, oh, I might not want to disconnect this person's mobile at the moment, because there is a likelihood. Now, that's not something that we would compel my jurisdiction of, but it's with them, and they've been quite proactive about this in terms of changing or reaching out to people in these
Yep.
instances. So that's why we do it. We're basically, like we said in the first part of the training, we're just letting them know.
yes,
What
that's
they do
right.
with that information is up to them.
Mm.
We would hopefully think they're doing proactive things like
Yeah.
considering not disconnecting
That's right.
certain people's phones when they're in bushfire area. So.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. So how's the landline disconnected? Disconnection affecting your safety? Are you able to use your mobile phone? Typical typical question we've normally asked a consumer. Is the provider aware of the issue? Has the provider offered suitable options or advice, interim service, alternate service? So again, this side of it's nothing new to what you normally do. Okay, any questions? Oh, one other thing, sorry, if you go to our Confluence page on the early resolution dashboard, you'll see at the bottom there is a link to natural disaster information and contact details. Okay, it's worth having a look at that just quickly, just so you're aware I can go there, and what other information or contact details you can provide to the consumer. Okay, anything else, Talia, you can think of?
Thanks very much. When you can even look on the TO website, where it's also got information mainly about bushfire affected areas. Obviously, it's got contact details for providers that are actually part of any initiatives at the moment. Fact sheets available, further information about people affected obviously with natural disasters. But again, you can use them as a guide and have them open when you're having this discussion, because sometimes you might just need to refer them to any other type of service, or they might just need, to know where to go, because we're talking with people, as we said, that, might have lost their homes, their livelihood, and sometimes that, we can help them with what we're doing and what we have available in our tools, but if we can refer them to somewhere else, sometimes there might also be, an additional point of assistance.
Okay, any questions?
Well, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I've had in the past, like, consumers call and they're like, this is before, I can't remember any recent ones, and they would say, I don't have my internet and that's how or I don't have the service and that's the way that they actually get the updates about the bushfires. And in the past, that hasn't been urgent, right? But is that now urgent?
I don't think so,
No.
because as long as they can call
Yeah.
000,
They
you
can
know,
contact.
and I know it is an issue because
Mm.
I have seen in the media, I know it's strange, well, consumers are actually saying, well, I'm complaining, if they can't get radio reception to the ABC, or they listen to the ABC because the mobile tower's been burnt and knocked out.
Yeah.
So that's their only way of getting through, by listening to the radio to find out if there's any changes in their area.
So we wouldn't consider that urgent now?
Not if they've still got phone contact.
As long as they
Yeah.
can call out
Yeah.
in case
Yeah.
of an emergency.
But it just seems like if they can't check for updates, that would
Yeah.
be
That could also be
maybe
tremendous.
just like,
risk.
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah,
it's
look,
just we have never done it.
That's okay, it's a good
before.
point to bring up, I can take it back and see what.
The medical urgent process is a directive that comes from a code. The code relates to Telstra only and
Yeah.
people who've got medical priority. So
Yeah.
we've taken that code reasoning, and the reasoning is more, okay, can you dial 000? Do you have access? Because that's one ways that a provider may choose to resolve an urgent complaint is to set up their mobile as a diversion.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, we have to follow that process. So that process is more about landlines not working
Yeah.
and the CSG and making sure that they've got access to emergency service. There's no directive that says internet is an essential service that people
Yeah,
need
I
to
know,
have.
but I was just wondering if
Yeah.
perhaps there'd be an exception because.
I think the exception that we've created is this bushfire banner,
Mm.
which doesn't tell the provider what it has to do.
Yeah.
It alerts the provider to what it
Yeah.
can or should be trying to do to assist someone who's in this situation.
Yep.
So that's kind of the best we can do for the moment.
That's right.
But we don't make policy on the fly with the provider. But this is kind of us working with the provider, and, hey, look, we can't change policy on the spot, but we can do this sort
Yep.
of thing where we just start opening up effective communication channels, really, which is what this is.
Yeah, thank you, good explanation.
Actually.
Okay, anything else? Oh,
You go.
No, you go.
Changes the way we process our MSDs at all, or just the same?
Same. Everything stays the same process-wise. It doesn't change the timeframes of what we ask the provider to do. Like Bo said, we can't change policy and procedures that we've already got in place. So it's still the same, it's just making the provider.
But if it is listed and they're in a natural disaster, we sort of put it through, or, yeah, okay.
There's no-
If someone only has, like at progression stage, they've got the, natural disaster banner,
Yep.
there's only so much providers can do
Yeah.
in these circumstances.
Yep.
And maybe this isn't for us to advise, but like when would the way we would consider a complaint unresolved, is that going to change or would that change, like considering whether, no?
Our process shouldn't change.
No.
It hasn't changed, I should say. We're just adding
Still
this
the same.
tag as an awareness,
Yeah,
okay? And it's something that we can search and report on.
exactly. And that's
Yeah.
the main reason why we're doing it, so that we know how many of these people are affected and future-wise, it might actually bring changes in, but for the time being, it's mainly for reporting and for us to be aware and the consumers to be aware that we're actually trying to, help out as best as we can. Yeah, that's it.
Good.
So we do urgent interpreters,
Yeah.
it's all the same, and it's just
Yeah,
all captured.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, with the urgent ones, the
Mhm.
urgent medical ones, are we still doing anyone over 80?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
still the same, still the same.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so again, our processes don't change.
nothing's
It's just so. It's just really being aware of if it's a written complaint or a call, listening to the consumer. If they start talking about debt because of bushfire, or they've lost their house and now their services are being disconnected, and so then we just become aware of what they're talking about or the circumstances, and we note it accordingly. All good?
How many coloured bars can I shove in a complaint?
Multiple.
Many.
Multiple.
I don't think
Yeah,
there's
you might
actually
have an
one.
urgent, a fire banner, or natural
Systemic.
disaster.